Hi again, everybody. This is John Saltis, sitting with Ron Yengich, the two Bingham Boys that we introduced you to last week in our first podcast called The Bingham Boys. We found out that hundreds of you found us on Substack and YouTube and Spotify. 400 people found us. I've just been pointed out. Is that correct? Okay, well, that's really good. I think. I don't know what the measures are of metrics in this world of social media, but I hear that's pretty good. Or as my favorite president would say, the best ever. Best ever.
Beyond doubt.
Nobody's ever seen numbers like that before.
No.
So we had a good time. We got to get some stuff out of our minds and off our chest and into the ether that you're now listening to again. We're back with session 2 of the Bingham Boys. And Ron, what are your thoughts from last week?
It was enjoyable, more so than I thought. And what I like to think is that outside of this studio, there are hundreds of thousands of people just wanting our autographs. Because if we were Donald Trump, he would say that even though it wasn't true. But the truth is, I was surprised and gratified by the number of people that were kind to send us messages of various sorts to indicate for us to keep doing it.
Yeah, and we will. And until you guys say stop, we will first out of the chute. I just feel it's obligatory to apologize to everybody. Last time we went an hour and 20 minutes, and many people go, geez, oh, Misa, will you shut up? But we didn't know what we were doing, and we still don't. So, but we're committed to shorten it this time and in all future podcasts too, somewhere between 45 minutes and an hour. So hang in there. Learn a little bit more about Bingham. This podcast will always be Bingham and politics.
That's right. So, as always, we're going to start out with the commercial. The Bingham Boys, brought to you by the folks at the Sunset Tavern, the ideal spot for tired and weary copper miners from the valley to begin and end their day. Hey, John, when you and the family drive down to the valley, if you feel the same thirst of the plants of the dry farms along the way, there is a way station where libations and good old-fashioned hand food can be of help to you on your journey. At the Sunset Tavern, guys and gals will feel right home if they're from Bingham, in this twin sister tavern of your own Moonlight Gardens. Grab a Fisher beer on tap or take a six-pack with you for the road. Why, it's like you're sitting on your own bar stool in the canyon in Lead Mine. After a day of shopping and the hustle and bustle of Salt Lake City at Arbax, Wolf's, and the Bingham guy-owned store of Schulson Dillon Sporting Goods, you can grab another cold one for you and a cold soda pop for the kids for the last leg of your excursion up the mountain as the sun sets over Sunshine Peak high above Highland Boy. Come and visit us at the Sunset, conveniently located at 3200 West and the new Bingham Highway in West Jordan.
Yeah, the Sunset, that brings back some memories. It was... By the way, regarding that, Ron, nice job on the commercial. This will be a shameless ask of Ron and myself. If anybody's out there and wants to legitimately be our sponsor, we'll legitimately make sure you get promoted like crazy and get the value back for you. So we won't have to write these commercials about old Bingham places of business
that no longer exist.
Yeah. So anyway, about the Sunset. Last week we talked about I grew up right above the Moonlight Gardens in Lead Mine. The same family owned the Sunset. That was the Campros family out of Lead Mine. And both places were, like Ron said, the places where you come and go, mostly workers, Kennecott workers, either on the canyon or on the way back at shift change. So, you had your day shift, your afternoon shift, and graveyard or night shift. So at 3 o'clock and 11 o'clock every day, these places just were filled up. People going to work and people coming off work, getting a beer before the shift, getting a beer after the shift, and filled up with miners who did all kinds of minery things like arm wrestle and play pool and shout and swear and all that kind of stuff. Listen to music every once in a while. The Sunset quit serving. It's a long, long time ago because they made a tactical error one evening there used to be dancers back in those eras. Do you remember go-go dancers?
Yeah.
Mud wrestling, all that kind of stuff. So they hired a go-go dancer, which wasn't unusual on the weekends or something. But what was unusual, maybe not totally unheard of across the valley, is sometimes the go-go dancer would lose her apparel, to put it nicely.
That's a very nice way to say it.
Yeah.
That's a lawyer's way of putting it.
Yeah. So somehow on this particular evening, a young woman took the stage. I was not there. I heard the story. And they locked the doors and got a fund together, the guys that were there, and did what stupid guys do when they're young, and collected a bunch of money to give to her, which she then did indeed lose her apparel, which is against the law in Utah. That's one thing. But what happened was one of the miners, I think a cable gang guy, went up on the stage and also lost his apparel. And he wasn't being paid. Yeah. Well, that's also bad. But the real bad part was they locked the doors, but they also locked the Vice Squad inside. So there was never another beer sold out of the Sunset after that.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So.
I didn't realize that was a story, but having in my legal career defended lots of bars for violations, I can readily say that's one that's going to close the doors for good.
Right there. West Jordan's one and only bar, never reopened. So what's next for us?
I don't know. What do you want to talk about today?
Well, there's something. Okay, for last night, something happened. Last night being Tuesday night in Salt Lake City, it was a city council meeting, whereupon through the efforts of the city council and our mayor, Mendenhall, they decided to take the state up on what is termed an official flag in Utah. So Salt Lake City adopted 3 additional official flags that they are now going to fly over city council city property. And the legislature currently can't do anything about it. Let's see what they do. So what happened, as you know, the state legislature banned pride flags and other similar flags, somehow missing the Nazi flag and whatever. Tells you a lot about our legislature 2 ways. One, that apparently fascism is good, and quite obviously gay people are not good. This was a charge by particularly one fellow named Trevor Lee, one of our esteemed people on the Hill, who is just a homophobe. That's his simplest distinction of what he is. So through their passage of banning those flags on state and official functions, they left a gap in the law. I think you know, Ron, and
right.
Cities can fly their official flag. So now we have 4. We have the city flag, which was already flying. Well, in fact, I think all these were flying. It's just been made official. A pride flag, transgender / pride flag, so on. And then one in honor of Juneteenth. I think that's a royal up yours from the city to the state legislature. Don't tell us what to do. And I actually am kind of happy that the mayor did that personally. How do you feel?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the reality is I think that statute's unconstitutional. What people forget that live in Utah, and even those that are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or have that in their history, is that the Mormon people were persecuted throughout this country. They got here because they couldn't live in peace. And they couldn't live in peace because of their beliefs. And they came to the state of Utah, and the Constitution of the state of Utah is very strong on the right to assemble and the right to protest and the right of free speech. And so the idea that our legislature says you can't have this type of flag anywhere flies in the face of our own Constitution. But in what we've been doing forever, as a young lawyer, I represented some kids who got kicked out of school because they were wearing anti-war type protest T-shirts. And there was plenty of case law from the U.S. Supreme Court, even at that time, saying they're entitled to do that in the sense that if they are not being otherwise disruptive. And it's really simple in my mind. And that is there's an idea of the old childhood sing-song response. Sticks and stones will break your bones, and words can never hurt you. We live in a world where people get to say who they are and what they believe. You're going to hear some things said about Donald Trump probably throughout this podcast that a lot of people are afraid to say. We don't live in an authoritarian government where they can tell us what flags to fly. In fact, going back to the "Don't Tread on Me" flag, that was a direct statement of what the people in the Northeast had to say about the tyranny of the British government. And so the idea that our legislature and people in our legislature think that they can somehow eradicate thoughts of the support of gay and transgender people by eliminating those flags, and that they can also somehow denigrate them as unworthy of understanding or support is anathema to what everybody believes in this country or should believe. And again, John makes the point, a Nazi flag or an Italian fascist flag, they're okay. And in a way, they are okay, because we can look at that and at least know who's waving those flags. But they get to believe that if they want to. They can't act on it in some instances. And so, yeah, I'm proud of our city council and our mayor for doing that, and I hope others do as well.
Well, Boise did in Idaho, so I'm pretty certain this is going to make news somewhere.
Right.
2 blue dot cities in red states, their city legislature, their city councils adopted the same almost initiative on the same end. So I don't know what is the solution to say, clearly I'm against anybody telling me what to do and telling me what flag I can wave and what flag I can't, even though, as you, I find it obnoxious as hell to drive through southern Utah or central Utah. I've seen this, and I don't need to say the town, but I've seen it twice, see Confederate flags flying. That's offensive as hell to me. But they can fly that flag, can't they? But at least I know who that guy is with the cow there and what he's thinking, right? I mean, right. I'd almost rather know that. But I'm not going to tell him he can't. I can be offended by it all day long, but I'm not going to do the Trevor Lee thing.
No, the thing is that in America, and America is, we're unique in this in some respect, and we gave this to the rest of the world. And that is, the words that you say may convince somebody of the righteousness of your cause, the symbols that you employ of the righteousness of your cause, or there may be feedback that tells you you're wrong. In the best of all worlds, we then discuss that and say, well, why do you have a Nazi flag? Or why are you flying a gay pride flag? Or whatever. Why are you flying a Vatican flag? And you can talk about it, and you don't have to hate the person. And the idea of the First Amendment is simply that we can have a discussion about it. And so...
Well, what those discussions too often turn into, especially on social media, is not the flag, not that issue, but people on social media particularly turn it into, let's condemn the people instead of talk about the issue. They do it all day long. We can talk about that. But I was wondering what a solution on the flags might be. The United Nations does it one way, they just fly all the flags.
Right.
And we could fly all the flags. Any city council or any city or a county or a state, fly them all.
We do it at the Peace Gardens in this very city.
There you go.
At Peace Garden, the flags of the various countries are up there because they represent people from those countries who have lived in this state and this city.
Well, I'm sorry, Ron.
I just don't understand the idea. I'll never understand it, that you don't want people to exhibit pride, pun not intended, pride in who they are, where they come from, what they believe in. You don't have to believe that.
It's never hurt anyone.
And it doesn't hurt anyone. What does hurt people is then you deciding that you're going to rip that flag down and commit an act of criminal mischief because you disagree with them. That is not what we believe in. And just one quick thing on your point. We've gotten worse of the condemnatory attitude about those type of symbols since Donald Trump has been involved in politics. And the problem is that what he has done, and on our side, we've done it too, and that is to condemn people who do things, exhibit attitudes without violence that piss us off. Well, you're able to respond But once again, and maybe this is the time to talk about it, about Donald Trump wearing the Pope's outfit in the AI. For me personally, that's offensive. Does he have the right to do it? Yeah. Does he have a right to give his explanation? Yeah. I have a right to say, I don't buy what he says. He knew what he or whoever posted it was doing. And the offensive thing to me is that he was denigrating a man that he'd just seen in a casket wearing the same attitude. But also, for me, it offends me that a number of high-ranking Catholic prelates, including Timothy Dolan and Bishop Robert Barron, and I think both of those men are good men, Cardinal Dolan, when they were asked about it, hemmed and hawed around the answer until they were asked enough questions where they finally said, yeah, it was wrong. You also find one other thing about when you're dealing with symbols, and that is the people that you would think have the courage enough to stand up against it if it's something that is offensive, or stand for it if it isn't, how much courage they have, or whether they're afraid of offending someone. At the end of his little diatribe with the interviewer, Bishop Robert Barron said, it was asked, should he take that down, meaning the AI image of Trump in the Pope's outfit. And he said, well, no. I mean, after all, it's got 940 million or whatever the figure was hits. And so, no, I mean, it's already out there. My answer to that is no. If somebody tells you you've done something wrong and you're offending other people for no reason, at least you should be told that maybe it would be a good idea. But the people in this country now, a lot of them, fear retribution from Donald Trump and the people that support him. And that's not what the First Amendment is about.
No, it isn't. And I get lectured on that all day long. Mind you, I've spent since the 70s journalism classes to the career I've been in for over 40 years in journalism. People lecture me all day long about what is fake news and what journalism, MSN, mainstream media is all evil and all this kind of stuff. And those are the kind of the same people I remember in English class that couldn't spell the word cat if you spotted an A&T. So, and that's just an old pun. Everybody's heard that one. But it's true. And these are people who don't really have a deep understanding of not only journalism, but the First Amendment protections that are given to us. They just say stuff. And I don't go onto their site and say, you're really not a very good plumber.
Right.
Why? Who taught you how to put an elbow joint in? Are you nuts? Everybody knows it. I don't do that. People don't do that. But it's all day long on journalism, all day long on politicians, all day long on the First Amendment by people who really don't understand it. Well, I also don't. I'm not terribly offended by the fact it's there because I do believe in the First Amendment. But it's what you said. It's he did it with a particular different kind of intent. This wasn't Joe Average that just put a stupid meme on Facebook it was actually on X, Twitter, it was on Truth Social where he put it originally. Who cares? But this was the President of the United States on the official White House logo, signature, everything else, telling the world it's okay for him to mock the Pope. It's not a joke at that point.
No.
I'm not saying he needs to be Mr. Serious, but you're right. It was only 5 days prior, something like that he was dissing him with the blue suit. This is just a pattern of disrespect to all humans and individuals that just continues, and that's just not my kind of guy.
And that's the point. I mean, this is something that has gone on with him for a while. Again, I'm not overly offended by stupidity in the discussion of ideas or in the exercise of free speech. What I am disgusted by is if you represent the United States of America, then you're not the clown in the circus, okay? This is a great country, and it doesn't have to be made great again. It's already great. We have to continue to fine-tune it. We have to see that the tires of the car of the American government are filled with air and the carburetor works and whatever other analogies you want. But by God, if you're going to drive the car, then act like an adult. And if you can't act like an adult, whether or not some people think it's funny or not. You're denigrating our country. You're our leader. I don't want you to be our leader, but you are. You were elected. And so act like an adult. And it's about time people like our senators, Mike Lee, and other people in our government, our governor, come out and say, hey, you know what? We're not going to do this. We're going to start here. We're not going to do that, and we're going to call it out because we support him.
Yeah, well, I think Governor Henderson is doing a wonderful job, frankly.
Yeah, that's a good point.
She's got a lot more courage than the guy that's got the title.
You're right.
She stayed the Union building last night, I think.
Yeah.
So, and she's done other notable things. I didn't know anything about her. I know that in the past year she's done several things that were the right thing to do. And your challenge to Lee ain't going to happen. He's continuing to spiral downward into whatever miasma he's in of self-love. And Cox is going to continue to run to where the safest corner is. That Cox became a coward, but he did. He gave hope and promise to people and took it away. And he's never trying to get it back either. He's not a strong person. He wanted to be everybody's friend, but he hasn't been. Will he turn it around and be that person? You laid it out for Cox and Lee. I don't think either one of those two will do it. I don't know who will among the people that really should, because they have the ability to make a change and make things better, and they don't. And that is definition of cowardice.
No, it is. And the reality of it is that we've also gotten away in this country. Once you're elected, you are the governor of all of the people of the state of Utah. Those that voted for you and those that didn't. Those that didn't vote at all. You have to factor in everybody's concerns and be prepared to protect their rights. As a lawyer, when I was sworn in to all the bars that I am a member of, and I don't mean by drinking bars, I mean bars of justice, you're sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the state or the district or whatever you're sworn into. Mike Lee made that oath. I'm a member of the U.S. Supreme Court bar. You make it when you become a member of that bar too. He has an obligation to stand up and say, no, we shouldn't be doing some of these things. It isn't just about getting elected. It is about standing up for the rule of law.
I didn't go to law school, but am I mistaken? Is the oath not a swear to protect and uphold the Constitution?
Yes, exactly.
And you're telling me it's not to uphold Donald Trump
and
a political party?
No.
It's not. Are you kidding? You're kidding, right?
No, I know.
Is this the truth?
I think you would find that a lot of people don't get that. George Washington, they wanted George Washington to run again, as it was done then, for a third term. There were people that literally wanted him to become if not a king, to serve until death, because George Washington was beloved by the people at that time. And he didn't. He walked away after 2 terms. That's where the 2-term thing really started. And he did it for the right reason. He did it because he felt in a participatory democracy, Republican form of government, small r, small d, that we needed other people to move forward with what we were doing. That we didn't want to have someone who had so much power as a cult figure, my words, not his, that they would become like a king. He says that basically in his speech as he's leaving the presidency. And somehow we've gotten to a human being and people who know that Washington was right, and a cult figure in Donald Trump who says, I can sign all laws away by executive mandate. I don't have to use Congress. I'll do whatever I want. I'll target people and go after them if I don't like them. That's exactly what Washington was against. and the other people that were our forefathers at that time. And yes, I'm sorry, it was mainly men. And somehow we've lost that.
Well, I think it's not lost. I think it's under the covers, and there's a whole bunch of people covering up for what's under the covers for their end game. And I do want it to come back. Hey, but Ron, I'm trying to relate how that kind of tied into anything in Bingham, and I don't have an easy one. You know, we had bad bosses, I guess, right, here and there. But you spoke of the Pope for just a second. The conclave began today, and what is it? What is that word? What?
Conclave comes from the Latin conclave. Clave is key, and con is with the key. And so what it is they take a key and they lock the electors, cardinals, in the Sistine Chapel. It used to be that they also made little apartments that in the Sistine Chapel. So when they locked them in, each of them had an assistant. They locked them in, and they stayed there, and they ate there, and slept there until they came up with a 2/3 majority to elect the Pope. But anyway, now they allow them to go home to Casa San Marta, which is close, and so they have a nice bed and they can sleep. But the idea is you're going to be there. You're not going to have any outside contact with anybody. You're not going to know what's going in effect in the world. You're going to go there for the specific purpose of electing the Bishop of Rome, which is the Pope, and you're going to do it without outside influence. And they swear an oath to do that, and also not to discuss what happens in the conclave. But the idea of it is, with the key, we're locking you in till you guys get this job done. In fact, I think about time in Rome now when they will have taken the first vote.
There's already a meme going around with orange smoke coming out.
The knot had said he wanted to be the next pope. I mean,
so why not?
Why not? I know. That's great. I love that.
I know.
That's hilarious.
I can laugh at it until it shows up on the White House, official White House page. You know, whatever happens there, you know, there's hundreds of millions of Catholics or billion. I don't even really know.
The number they keep kicking around is 1.4 billion.
Okay, so that's kind of influential.
Yeah. Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about it is it's influential, but it is, you're talking about people from all over, and nobody agrees in the Catholic Church on anything. You know, the old idea of leftist Catholics democratically, we're lunchroom Catholics. We take what we want and leave the rest. Well, so does the right, and they do the same thing. And so everybody has different agreements. The idea that there's this monolithic voice within the Catholic Church is laughable if you've ever dealt on any committee, and I'm on some committees, have been, with other Catholics about things to get done. It's not a monolithic voice, but it is a strong potential voice for good or bad. And that's the thing that's got to be remembered.
Well, what do you want for Christmas?
What do I want for Christmas? Really? This?
You
want to go there?
Okay, yeah. My Christmas is in Bingham. We're pretty simple. You know, you got a balsa wood paper airplane that you'd unwrap and make an airplane. It lasts for about 5 minutes before the elastic band broke and the propeller broke. You might get a game. You get a toy or some clothes, but very minimalist. That, you know, I remember our trees, which we were in a small home, but underneath it, there weren't very many packages. We had 4 kids, but everybody got something. Everybody was happy. And one thing I absolutely don't remember about Bingham is any child getting $30 for Christmas. Did you ever see that happen? To get $30 for anywhere, Highland Boy, anywhere?
No, I don't think so. And do you want to tell them, in case people don't know what we're talking about?
Well, yeah, the president made mention regarding that, oh my God, I wasn't wrong. It's Joe Biden's economy, and I swore to you I wasn't wrong, and somebody must have given me bad information. But prices might be affected because of these tariffs. And if they are, it might affect the price of dolls. Why do I choose dolls of all things?
Yeah,
you know, when he's the guy that's going to bring manufacturing back.
Right.
Why not cars? But anyway, it's going to affect the price of dolls. And your little girl or child might have to do with only $2 this Christmas and not 30.
Right.
And I don't even know if I ever saw a $30 collection, letting alone getting 30 at one time. And so it just is another example of, I don't think this guy ate from the same dinner table as I did.
No.
I don't think he has any, we don't have any shared experiences at all.
No, I think that's true. I mean, the idea that somewhere in his head, he believes that normal working people that work hard to put food on the table, and at Christmas, that there was good food because they saved to make their national dishes and shared them with other people, and you went from house to house. That's where I first ate any Mexican food. That's where you ate Basque dishes, and we're gonna have to have Osaro on here to talk about Basque cooking, where you ate the dishes of the Slavic people or the French people down in Binghamton, where this is what had happened. So no one got $30. I mean, and the idea that he is so detached from reality that's his explanation of how the economic mess that he has made, which he says is just a downturn for a while, impacts people, that Susie or Tanya or Letitia, they're only going to get 2 instead of 30. My mother got her first doll when she was a little girl, but after the age of 6, she found $1 and took it home to her mother, and it happened to be around Christmas, and that's when she got her first and probably her only doll. Well, it's not only people that live back there that experience that. There are millions, billions of people around the world that if they get a cookie for Christmas, they're lucky. And guys like Trump and Elon Musk, who can give their children, I guess it would be $150 for Elon Musk, a doll, don't understand that most people work from paycheck
I
to
think
paycheck.
Donald Trump and Elon Musk have living dolls. They don't have don't have ceramic dolls, Ron. It's a whole different thing.
I guess, but
what did you call, or what is it, the $2
oh yeah, a comedian, and I apologize, I forget who, because Donald Trump thinks he's kind of a mob boss kind of guy. He's kind of Vito Corleone's illegitimate child. And he's always acting like a mob boss from TV. This comedian referred to him as Donnie Two Dolls.
Of course.
And so that's his new mob name for Donald Trump, Donnie Two Dolls.
Everybody in Bingham had a nickname. He would have fit that way, but he still would have got behind. You know what's funny? You brought it up, too. I do remember those Christmases. And they weren't sparse. Everybody got something. Even if it was Jack's. But everybody had whatever they got, they were happy with. But it was the meal time and the family time, and for all the Catholic kids I was around, and anybody that went to church on Sunday, the spiritual time.
Right.
And it always strikes me that the guy that is puts his face on the Pope's AI picture or blue suit or whatever, and talks about all this Christianity, never mentions it really. It's a shame that the president continues to refer to things in the vernacular of a dollar sign and not what Christmas means. So it would have been just as easy for that guy, and maybe people have forgotten, but we have had recent presidents that did bring up the humanity side of Christmas and the message of Christmas through that whole holiday season. It doesn't really matter your spirituality or what religion you belong to. It's not just about money and dolls. He could have mentioned that. Why didn't he? Because he's not. And then the day before Easter, he talked about going to church on Easter, and then went golfing on Easter. I don't even care if he golfs. I don't. I mean, other than the fact it cost us $30 or $40 million so far this year. I mean, that's kind of high when you're asking other people to sacrifice. Right. I don't like that. But don't lie to us, and don't pretend to be a Christian, and don't know when you walk into a setting that's spiritual to some people, don't act like you have never been there before, because it's painfully obvious you never have. So quit telling us that you believe in this stuff, because you don't.
I mean, one of the real tragedies of his presidency is his idea that he can say whatever he wants and then backtrack on it and say that he didn't say it, or do whatever he wants and then say he didn't do it. And, I mean, this was brought up the last time. I go to church. And I go to church not because I feel holier than anybody, because I believe I need it because I'm a sinner. And I mean that up front. Every Christian is. The 120 cardinals that are in the conclave right now will all tell you they're sinners, because we all are. We're fallen human beings, and we're trying hard. Donald Trump even uses Christianity as a means to win votes or convince people without ever having understood it at all. And that's obvious. And that should offend the Christians that vote for him. Maybe they find other reasons to vote for him and they're fully able to do it. But it cannot be because this guy gives a good damn about any of that. He was against abortion he was for abortion forever until he ran for president. Now he's opposed to it, and people vote for him on that issue alone. And again, maybe we'll discuss that sometime.
Didn't he kick the abortion thing back to the states, or saying, no, I don't, this is how I'm, but that's a state thing now. And
that's what he says now. But the reality is that you have to look deep at the person to see who they are. And it's pretty easy to see through Donald Trump, because he is, there's nothing that he says that indicates that he believes in any type of God. I don't know if you saw, he came out in the Pope costume, and then in an interview, Elon Musk said he was really the Buddha. He was like the Buddha.
Musk is the Buddha?
Musk is the Buddha, yeah. And Trump is, and I think Melania is character in Green Acres that was played by Eva Gabor. Eva Gabor. And I don't know who Miller is. I guess Miller is Mr. Haney from Green Acres. I have no idea.
Miller's an amalgam of every bad character in history.
Eddie Haskell.
Eddie's a nice guy compared to
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Miller. Hey, what about, I was thinking the other day, because I got, one of the people that have been communicating with me was Old Bingham people, and two of them were veterans that we know, and I'm not going to bring out here right now, but like by name, because it'd just be wrong to do it. But they're kind of pissed off about the threat, if that's the right word, or the opportunity to rename Veterans Day as Victory Day. And that's bad enough, but when you don't even know when Veterans Day is and call it June 7th instead of the proper day, that's kind of indicative of the depth of knowledge in there. What do you think? Because I'm going to ask you a little bit about the patriots you know,
right,
being the people that were, and what is that? Why is Trump always pouncing? He's the same thing. He's pouncing on veterans all the time, but yet veterans seem to come back to him.
He does nothing for veterans, and they're looking at even reducing funding for the Veterans Administration more. As you know, we do the Run for My Brother and Jeff Jensen and Judge Ennis every first Saturday. I'll get an advertisement here. First Saturday of January every year, and we give the money to homeless vets and the Veterans Court and some other groups. And so these are people that served the country, and many of us didn't. And the idea that he just comes up with an idea, somebody probably handed it to him, that we have to change the name. And because all Donald Trump cares about is victory, winning. It's all about winning. It isn't about history. It isn't about the history of that name. It isn't about the history of how we've done it. He wants to put his fingerprints on everything. And Veterans Day wasn't just about VE Day or VJ Day in World War II, or the armistice in the First World War, or the Korean War, or the Vietnam War. It was about all of them. It was about all of them. When it was enacted, I think after World War I, it was done in a way to honor all veterans. And we forget that veterans have always kind of had some trouble in this country in getting the support they needed. There were veterans that protested during the Depression, and there were veterans that protested after the Civil War, and there were veterans that protested after the Revolutionary War. who wanted to get paid and wanted to be taken care of. That's something we should do. It doesn't have to be renamed, doesn't have to be done differently. It's just got to be done right. And so once again, this is only about him, so he can say he shows how great the American fighting man and woman is. We know that. The way we prove that, I guess, would be how we deal with them when they need us, and we do a poor job of it.
Well, here's an example of that. I will brush up to some of the names of a few people. I hate doing this because I know I leave people out, but among people our age, guys that served and then served in Vietnam, included our friend Danny Brentel. We know him from the track gang. He was a Green Beret in Vietnam.
Can I stop you?
Yeah.
The reason we're laughing is because if you know Brentel, who's a great guy, Brentel claims to this day that he works so hard that he uses John and I and other people as dependents on his tax form because we were so lazy and unknowledgeable working on the track gang at Kennecott that he had to work.
Well, he's a Bingham boy, and he's from the same region of Italy you are, I think, northern Italy.
Yeah, I think his parents.
And so is his cousin, Tim Tabola,
Yeah.
a Vietnam veteran. His best friend was Joe Miller, who was also on the game. He grew up in Harriman, but he graduated from Bingham High School.
Great guy.
Joe was a Silver Star recipient, and Danny a Bronze Star. Bobby Mena, there's a Cochrane guy. I have 2 older brothers and 2 cousins from Bingham, born in Bingham, that served over in Vietnam. And, so many more. And, from like Eloy Romero and Velarde, there were so many members of the Hispanic community that went over there. It was just crazy. Those guys are the best patriots ever. I don't understand why they are never given the full shrift of what kind of good stuff they did. Bingham, in fact, even had before us a couple code talkers that lived up in Honeyboy. But we did a story years ago, I don't know if you saw it, about the 3 Midvale boys that Tommy Gonzalez, Doogie's brother, Jimmy Martinez, brother of Albert and Norbert, and then Leroy Tafoya, who's a brother of a classmate of mine. They were killed in Vietnam within 6 weeks of each other, 4 to 6 weeks of each other, in November and then to December 7th in 1967. And it's one of the most poignant, best stories City Weekly ever did. It got acclaim all over the place. It's mentioned on different Vietnam veteran historic sites and so on. But the Mexican Hispanic families that sent kids over there, it was just unreal that patriotism those guys showed.
Right.
And the love of it, and love of country, and the reward was almost minimalist upon return. If a reward, I don't think they went in for a reward. I think they went because they're honorable. And there were so many. I think maybe we could round up some of the guys that were Vietnam vets, maybe from Bingham, or military veterans, and bring them up, because Memorial Day is coming in a couple of weeks. Maybe then, maybe in the fall, and talk to some of them, because there were so many, and get that history down, because it's something that has been forgotten. I care a lot about that topic, and I just hope that our guys are not forgotten, which is the dovetail about not forgetting. Did you know a guy historically in Bingham? You may not have known him, Chicago Charlie.
I did know him. Before I go to that, same with me. Of course, I know a number of the people, them families.
Rogi Scorzato, forgot about
talking
him.
about. I was just going to say that.
Nicky Rakic.
Yeah, Rogi and my law partner Earl Zeiss is my law partner Earl Zeiss's cousin, and know the Scorzato family. We live by them in Bingham, but really good people, and also kids from Jordan High School. 2 guys from Jordan High School that are on the Vietnam War Memorial up by the Capitol, Kim Fitzgerald and Mike Hughes, both really good guys. They both died in Vietnam. That was a tough time for a lot of us. And my friends, my buddy Boats, Mike Day, Ray Day, and Danny Comstock, God rest his soul, and Lonnie, I'm sorry, it doesn't come to me right now because I hadn't thought about it for a while, and Eddie Vigil and other people that went to Vietnam, and I didn't because I was going to college. A bunch of them got together in Saigon and wrote me a letter saying, look, we're here on leave. I can't say what the letter said, don't flunk out of school
Yeah.
because you're going to come here. We don't want you here.
Right. Well, in the generation before us, there was Chicago Charlie.
Right.
His name was Karl Zahos. He was a Greek. In the Balkan Wars, in and around World War I, he was fighting for the Greek army, fought the Albanians and the Italians, whoever they were fighting, and he was somewhat heroic in those fights, and he carried that honor for a long time. Apparently lived in Chicago long enough to get the moniker Chicago Charlie. Moved to Bingham, where everybody probably, I can't think of anybody that doesn't know the name that's
Sure.
from Bingham. And he was always showing up in the most eccentric of ways, loud, boisterous Greek guy, shaved half his face one time. Don't know why, but he did. He was always around good citizenship, good citizenry, and was a huge supporter of veterans of World War II. And to the point where there's a monument in Copperton
Right.
that pays honor to all those guys that served in World War II. Your uncle's on there. I've got several.
dad-
You've got several. I know Nicky's on there.
My dad's on there. Yeah.
And I've got some uncles on there too, both sides. And all of them are named. And then there's the Blue Star or Gold Star families, the people that were lost in Bingham at that time. I'm just going to shout out one. I know Beverly Burke's brother was killed in the Aleutian Islands. Beverly ran the confectionery in Bingham for a long time.
That's right,
Their family was incredibly distraught over this forever, and still is. And grandchildren like Cheryl and the sisters and so on, all related to them. Anyway, there were all those names up there, and that monument is due to Chicago Charlie. And even during Vietnam, in World War II and in Vietnam, he'd send letters, just boxes of letters, and saying, "Dear soldier,
Right.
hang in there. You can do this. Take the hill. Be a man," and whatever kind of stuff. But it wasn't. I guess I'm kind of oversimplifying it because it was always gentle stuff. We're thinking about you. You're in our thoughts. You're in our prayers. And he did this and gathered funds and did all kinds of good stuff for that community. And later on, he became more known for his eccentricism as opposed to his care for other people. And yet, Chicago Charlie's got a fond piece of all of our hearts. If you're from Bingham,
You know who he is. I mean, and I remember seeing him up in Bingham, but I also remember seeing him, and it seems like it was after I was practicing law, protesting down at Washington Park by the city and county building, and I knew who he was. I met him. My dad knew him pretty well, and my dad is the one that explained who he was, but he was eccentric. He would have a push cart or something with all kinds of flags and stuff on it. I mean, those are the people before the internet and easy access to media that were the people that they might have been eccentric, but they were the reminders, those who reminded us about, to tie this up, about free speech and about the importance.
Oh, yeah. And they fought and they believed, and they supported, our Constitution.
Right.
And these were humble people without much in their pockets that did that. And I don't think it's a far stretch for you or I or anybody to ask the same of the Mike Lees of the world.
Right.
Elected politicians who have it pretty damn good. Once you're in, you can't get out. Almost. You're never going to lose. You're going to have a pension for life. You're going to have all the medical care you're cutting off from the rest of us. At least uphold the oath you took.
Right.
Don't just sit there and say, I know what's good for you.
Yeah, have a profile in courage and stand up to people who are denigrating other people's entire groups, and stand up to them even if you are of the same party. It's your job.
Right. Well, look, I didn't bring anything to have a toast with this time, so it's usually my obligation, and I'm a failure myself. So why don't we just say thanks till next time, and if anybody has any ideas for the next podcast, if we get to number 3,
Yeah.
we'll know. Please send us ideas or anything about Bingham related or politics related. We'll speak about it. And meanwhile, for those who participate well, strongly, and don't be afraid to participate. Make the changes
That need to be made.
Yeah, the ones that need to be made. Thank you.
Thank
Ron,
you.
good to talk to you again.
You too, John.